Oh, this is it right here. Okay, live and good to go right on Samantha Feenberg's channel. So we're going to bring a really live one here to you tonight, more so than normal. Samantha, anything you want to add before we get into the mix of things?
Yes, so thanks for being a guest tonight on my channel. We actually had the pleasure of finally meeting each other in person at the Pnba Eastern USA Pro-Am up in New Jersey. You were the head judge, and I was there doing some judging and some media coverage. So it was an awesome weekend. I met some incredible athletes. So that was my first taste of that organization, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a very well-run show. I'm going to let you do the whole show review since you were the head judge, and I will be rolling some video as you speak about the athletes. So it should be a good time.
Okay, cool. And if you want to chime in, feel free, because you were judging too. But we pretty much agreed on everything all across the board.
Yes.
I don't think we had 100% perfect scores among all 5 judges, but I'm going to try to break it all down. But I think we agreed on most of the classes, and we got all the first places right. But yeah, I'm going to break it down and get right into it now, because we don't want to waste any time.
Let's do it.
We're going to dive right into it. So here we go.
All right.
But first, we had a really good judging panel. I mean, I think a lot of competitors, before they decide to compete in the show, they try to find out who the judges are going to be. Because if you diet for 4 to 6 months, you want to make sure you have an experienced, unbiased judging panel that's going to get the scores right. Because there's nothing
100%.
worse than if you're a competitor to diet for 4 to 6 months and then not get your rightful placing. So I like the judging panel we had. A very experienced judging panel. We had Kent Beerley in the mix, and I think me and Kent agreed on every single placing and every single class for the entire show. That makes me feel good. I know he's got more experience than me. But then we had Samantha on the panel, of course. Tim McDaniel was a judge, and he's been all over the map, too. He's been with the NPC, NGA, of course, the INBA, Pnba, IFBB, Physique America. He's been a judge and a competitor and a promoter, so he's got the experience. And then Bob Goldman, he's been judging since like the early 80s, and he might have more experience than all of us because he's done a lot of big shows, and he's been around. So a very, very experienced judging panel, and that's part of the reason why we all agreed on all placings. Anything you want to add to that, Miss Samantha?
No, I would agree 100%.
Yeah. So first and foremost, the judging panel was there. I didn't see one placing that was wrong. I mean, at least I got them all matching my scorecard, so I was quite pleased with the turnout, of course. But I'm glad all the judges were on the same page as well. Nobody had any complaints. Anybody who didn't finish in first, they were fine with their placing because they knew they belonged in less than first place. So nobody was upset about their placing. All the competitors had a good time. So let's get right into the Eastern USA.
Right.
Men's bodybuilding grandmasters, 50 to 59-year-old Stephen Rodgers, uncontested in that class. But I'll tell you what, every single show, there's always somebody that should, if they just worked on their posing some, they would place higher. And I say it every single time. If you're going to do a show, hire a posing coach. Go to a posing seminar. Learn at least a couple things you didn't already know. Even if you've had a posing coach in the past, you can always learn something new from multiple posing coaches or seminars. And Aaron Wade is somebody who could have possibly won his class if he just took some posing lessons, because he had the physique. He had all the muscularity he needed, had the symmetry. His legs, you couldn't really tell they matched. They did match his upper body, but he didn't flex them. Pretty much the entire time he was on stage, he didn't flex them.
What division was he in?
He was in men's bodybuilding novice.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up the open. I think this is the open class. I'm going to while you're talking.
Show Aaron Wade in the mix here. So if you look at Aaron Wade, the color of his legs does not match the color of his upper body, and he didn't keep his legs flexed a lot of the time. His legs actually do match his upper body. They're pretty close as long as he keeps them flexed. But he didn't keep them flexed. So this is the difference between Samantha Feenberg's show and my shows. With my show, you don't get these illustrations. With Samantha Feenberg's show, you do. I'll try to slow down, Samantha, so you can get a word in. I wasn't sure how you wanted to.
No, you're good. I just so the Aaron is in the black here on the right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, Aaron's to the far right. He's this is his first show.
Right.
I asked him what he did for color, because he could have used a darker color on his legs. But the only thing he did for color was he went to the beach. And he did say he wore these posing trunks on the beach. but you can tell he's got more muscle. The guy in the red, his name is Oscar Mendoza. Now, it looks to me like Aaron has more muscle than Oscar, but Oscar's got the symmetry. He's keeping everything tight. He's keeping his composure and poise on stage. Here, Aaron could have kept his elbows up higher. He looks good right there, just like that. But if his elbows were up higher, his baseball biceps would have come out more. He's not keeping his legs tight. But right here, if Aaron would have posed his legs harder and worked on a couple of things in his upper body, he could have possibly won this class because he does have some thigh separation when he holds it, but he didn't flex his legs pretty much 80% of the time he was on stage. But Oscar's got the conditioning. He had enough muscularity. You can see he doesn't have quite as much muscularity as Aaron does, but he had enough muscularity. He certainly has the symmetry. And look at his color. Look at the white legs on Aaron compared to the tanner legs on Oscar here. That just makes a difference. You know? It looked to me like Steven Rodgers was the obvious third place because Steven carries a decent amount of muscle. He could have had better conditioning. He could be competitive in a lot of classes, but he was up against two other good competitors in this class, so he was the obvious third place finisher here. But Aaron could have taken first with a couple of posing pointers.
I would love to see. I would love to see a coach scoop him up because that's really all he needs.
So any coach, maybe Matt Burtis. If Matt Burtis is out there watching, look up this Aaron Wade, Arinn, and give him a posing lesson. Otherwise, if Aaron's watching, just go to a posing seminar or find a posing coach, and there's a couple things we can work on. But this guy, Aaron Wade, could be really, really good once he gets better at posing. So that's your men's bodybuilding open. And then let's see. Then in Classic Physique Open, we're going to go to that next because we got a really good competitor here in David Connor, I think his name was. So Classic Physique, very popular division coming up here. David Connor, we're still on the men's bodybuilding open here, I see. There he is. So David Connor is coming up. Now, a good men's physique competitor could use more overall size at the next level. He's got a good start. Look at that V, man. He's got such a small waist. It makes his V taper look really tremendous here. He's got a good level of muscularity. He really could have used a better color. I mean, if you look at his color here, he just had a lot of blotchy coloring throughout his entire body. He wasn't an even color at all. Not that it made a difference in the Eastern USA Pro-Am, but in future shows when he's up against the top competitors in a full class, he's got the muscularity, he's got the conditioning, he's even got the posing, but he's going to need to add more muscle as time goes on. Even though he looks great here, he's more muscle, and he's definitely got to nail his color for sure, because sometimes that color can make a big difference. And
he's a teenager. Did you mention that?
I didn't even know he was a teenager.
Yes, okay, he's a teenager.
Okay, still that's good yet. Well, it looks like he's well on his way to being one of the top in the sport. So once he continues putting on more overall size and works on that color, his quads were his best muscle group is what I noticed right out of the gate. But with that V-tapered waist, he could really be something good. So I would say if anything he needs to improve on is put some more size on those arms because his back's good, his quads are good. But I would focus more on putting size on the arms and those inner biceps too. Yeah. So the inner bicep split, like when he's doing his, like from the back, you can see he's got some cannonball delts starting to appear. But when he does a front double bicep, you really can't see the baseball-like formation coming out. The line, the split between his bicep and tricep from the front, which you might see here in a little bit. But if he's not looking at it now, when you see him in the future, if he's listening, he's got to work on those arm size. But his back and his quads are obviously his best muscle part here.
Mm-hmm. So he comes from wrestling. That was a sport he was involved in, and it kind of, evolved into bodybuilding now.
Okay, yeah. So he's used to being the disciplined dieter, and he's used to making weight, and so that's going to transition well for him in Classic Physique. But man, look at those. That's a good pose from right there too, when he puts the quad out like that, and that's magazine worthy. So look for more David Connor as time goes on. Next up is Men's Physique Masters. What we had here, we had John Tiano versus Grant Rodriguez here. And John ended up taking first place in this one. And then Grant ended up with second place. So John Tiano could use a better conditioned back and more muscularity overall. In this particular show, he got away with one. Then you had Grant Rodriguez in second place. And this was relatively close. I mean, nobody dominated here. There was no for sure first place. There was no for sure second place. They were both relatively even. So this was when he's not spreading out his shoulder blades there. He did. I think somebody in the audience told him to there. But that's a major one that you got to make sure you keep those lats spread out. where the posing of Grant was really well. He kept it together really good, but his conditioning was just a shade off where it needed to be. And he had some strong points that John didn't have, but when it came to overall strong points, John had the better conditioned back. He had the more muscular arms. And although Grant had his strong points and didn't lose every single pose, in the end, John just barely edged him out. But this was a class that the judges really had to judge because there was no obvious first or second place here. So we really had to compare him well. And we kept him on stage quite a while just to make sure we got it right. So there's that. But I would say Grant's strength from the back pose, in this particular pose he had him, right here, John's got to do something with his shoulder blades to not roll his shoulders forward, so he looks like he has a more V-tapered waist. In this pose, you can see the V-taper better, but in the front standing and relaxed, you couldn't quite see the V-taper on John's back there. So, good stuff. And he could probably use more chest size, too. This is John good. Grant just needs to work on overall conditioning. He's got the muscularity, he's got the posing, he's got the stage presence. He just needs to have, because you can see he doesn't exactly have paper-thin skin. This Grant does. So he needs to work on that conditioning more, and he'll be good in any show he enters. So good work by both these guys, though. Good competition, a good dog fight we had here. So then we had Pro Classic Physique Open coming at you next. Really good competitor here. Travis St. Peter. I've heard this name before. Never seen him on stage before, though. This is my first time, but he definitely had a presence once he took the stage. I always like to pick at something. I never tell anybody they're absolutely perfect. I was impressed when he jumped on stage with his posing and his stage presence and his poise and the way he held his poses together. But you got to pick something apart with every single competitor because there's always something you can do to improve. I would say with this guy here on Travis's physique is the hamstrings, because everything else was good. I would say his the weakest body part is probably his hamstrings. Everything else is so good. He's got good symmetry. He has good color. But he's got to bring those hamstrings up to match those quads, because the separation in his hamstrings didn't quite match that as like he did in the quads. But he's ready for a world championship show. He's right where he needs to be. He doesn't need time to improve or nothing like that. This Eastern USA was a good stepping stone in the world championship shows. But I think this Travis St. Peter can go into any Classic Physique Pro show and at the end of the year and do well, and he'll be competitive. So I hope to see him on a world championship stage later on this year. He was 8th place at the Natural Olympia 1 year, but I think he could crack the top 5 if he were to do the Natural Olympia again. So you heard it here first. If Travis St. Peter competes in the Natural Olympia, I predict him fighting for a top 5 spot, making an improvement on his 8th place finish at the Natural Olympia in 2020. One thing I can say, or maybe two things I can say, when he's doing any kind of victory pose, I think it's better to look up at your hands. There might have been a pose here to where he was doing a victory pose or some kind of archer pose. It's better to look up at your hands than to look at the audience. He had a 3/4 back pose that I would like to see him improve on. So Travis, if you're listening, you had the vacuum pose, you had the victory pose, that's great, but work on your 3/4 back pose. Get that one downtown, Julie Brown, baby.
And Mike, what about the lighting? These videos are coming out so good. The lighting was spectacular. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, that was one thing. Well, I don't know what kind of crew Mark had. Mark had the best crew. I mean, he had the whole Mr. America crew there for one. But the DJ, the lighting system, the crew that he had setting up the stage and taking it down, Mark put a lot of thought into who he put on his staff. But whoever he hired for the lighting did a good job. I noticed that too. And there were more people commenting on it. So that's how I knew it was good, because it wasn't just me that noticed. There were a few people in the audience that noticed as well. So you'll see this. Any Mark Torriello promoted show or Eastern USA is going to be bigger and better as the years go on. And this, for those of you who don't know, the promoter of the Eastern USA is the same promoter of the Mr. America. So you're going to start to be on the lookout for these shows with good lighting and getting better in due time. So now we're going to the Pro Bikini. We call them Pro Bikini Divas. The INBA, Pnba, Pro Bikini Divas, because that's what they are. They're divas. That's right. We had 2 divas on the stage this time around. Marissa Dare and Anna Marie Tabo. This was another one that was hard to judge. Now you can see Marissa's got the better color. Anna Marie, I seen her getting spray tan, because when I first seen Anna Marie, I was looking for her. I was like, okay, where's Anna Marie at? She's from Chicago. Let's find Anna Marie when I get to the hotel. And when I found her, she was in the tanning booth. So I know she got some spray tan done, but it looked like she could have used some better color. And it's not that colors always make or break, but sometimes when it's super close, you got to make sure you get every single edge you can possibly get, and that means color. But I'll tell you what the edge that Anna Marie did have was her stage presence, and she actually got best presentation in this show. And you can see that the way she transitions from pose to pose, the way she moves, the way she turns. Every single second Anna Marie is on stage, she's always looking her best. She never lets the judges see her at less than her best while she's on stage. But Marissa Dare brought a good package as well. And I think where Marissa won this show is from the back right here. You can see she's got leaner butt, she's got leaner backside, and especially in the walk, you can see that Marissa was slightly more conditioned than Anna Marie was. But in bikini, we're always looking for that line. But I mean, Anna Marie is more filled out from the front. So from the front and from the side, Anna Marie was quite competitive. She might have even had the edge from the front and from the side. But Marissa was close enough to the front and to the side. But she definitely won from the back, that's for sure. So even though this was kind of close, Marissa ended up edging out Anna Marie from the backside and with that color too. Whatever kind of coloring Marissa used, she nailed her color altogether. But two really good competitors here. Maybe look for a rematch down the road. But I felt Anna Marie could have used Anna Marie could have used more color, while Marissa could have used more front fullness, because you can see like her upper chest. I think from her upper chest region, somewhere around her shoulder area, she can just use more fullness, where you can see Anna Marie's definitely got the fullness, all the fullness she needs. She just needs to bring that conditioning down just a little bit, and Anna Marie could have one of the best years she's ever had in her bikini competition career. But yeah, two really good competitors here. So it was really close, but in the end, it was Anna Marie in second place, Marissa Dare in first place. How did you see that, class?
You called it, and it definitely was Marissa from the back. That was the determining factor for me.
That was, and I always say legs win shows, but after I say legs win, I always say shows are won from the back, and that's pretty much what happened here in this category. Then we had Figure Masters, really good competitor here.
Oh, yes.
First time on stage, Natalia Meza, I think is how you say her name. I mean, look, her posing was everything. And she brought the body too, but she got the color, but her posing was just absolutely perfect, especially for a first-time competitor. I mean, it looked like she's been in 10 shows, but she nailed her posing, so that's the first thing I noticed. She nailed her color. She had pretty good symmetry, but you can see right here, her hamstrings and her butt don't quite match that of her quads and her back. Look at how good her back is. Her backside doesn't match her hamstrings. Hamstrings don't match her quads. So when she gets ready for her next show, she needs to do something to tighten up the butt and the hamstrings to get it to match her front side. So that threw off her symmetry just a little bit. But what she lacked in symmetry, she made up for in posing. And she's got the muscularity that she needs to do really well in figure. So look for more than Natalia Meza in future shows. And that's what I could say about her. Work on those hamstrings. And then let's see. We had the Bikini Divas teenager. So we got the future of the sport. We had a teenager in Bikini Diva. I mean, back in the day, you used to see teenage bodybuilding, and that wasn't very popular. You'd always get a few teenage bodybuilders, right?
I was one of them.
I would call this the future of bikini right here. I don't think she practiced her posing. Anytime you competitors compete in any organization, always look at the posing criteria and always get somebody who's been there and done that before to help you with your poses. Like when we're quarter turning to the right, always lead with your right foot. You know, I mean, it's not always, if you bring the body, it's not always going to make or break you. It depends on how close it is with the other competitors. But you want to get that posing down, because if it is close and you turn to the left when everybody else turns to the right, that could throw your stage presence points off a little bit. So always lead with your right foot. But when it came to the body and when it came to the walk, like right now, that's a perfect walk. And she's got the conditioning, front to back, top to bottom. And most of her poses, she looks pretty good. But she could work on her poses, and she's definitely got to work on her quarter turns next time she decides to jump on stage. Okay, next up is Bikini Divas Open. We got Bikini Divas Open.
Yes.
Okay, so we had three competitors in this lineup here. Elisa Didomizio is her name, and then we had Manyan Labor Berra, and then Melody Zara Betapor, right? So Melody took second place in Mr. America Bikini Division last year, and then you were up against Alyssa and then Marianne as well. So right out of the gate, when I'm judging a show, I'm always like, is there a definite first place, and is there a definite second place? And Alyssa, this time around, I think somebody must have told Alyssa in between her teenage class and the Bikini Open class to work on her posing, because she improved her posing from one class to the next. And a lot of the times, that's why placings can swap and change, because if you're on stage for 2 or 3 different classes, from your first class to your second or third class, opposing coach could go back and give you a couple tips. Hey, spread those lats out, turn this way, hold your hips this way, or whatever they say, you know. Alyssa certainly improved for the open class when it mattered most, and she looked a lot better here when it came to posing. So I had Marianne in 3rd place right out of the gate, mainly because of the lack of conditioning compared to her upper body. You can tell she lacked conditioning in her lower body compared to her upper body. She had the stage presence and the color, but compared to the other 2 competitors, her conditioning in the lower body lacked. So she could use some help down there next time she jumps on stage. And then it came down to Alyssa and Melody. So I'm like, okay, does Alyssa have the body that can go with Melody? So I put them 2 together, and after turning them a couple of times, after putting all the stage presence together, I did give Alyssa a look, but it wasn't the hardest look possible. But I felt that Alyssa was a pretty solid second finisher here, and took a few poses and a few quarter turns before I made the deciding factor, before I actually wrote it down in the scorecard. But after a few minutes of actually judging them and comparing them, even though Alyssa was competitive with Melody, I still felt she was a very solid second-place finisher. But Alyssa's still great. But good work for Melody getting the first place nod, and look for Melody Zarabadapur at the Mr. America the weekend of October 9th. What was your take on that one, Samantha? Did you have it about the same way?
Yeah, I did.
Good. I like when people agree with me. I like when judges are in agreement with me, you know? So there's that. So that's 2 pages out of the way already. Am I going through all the classes? Yeah, I went through all the classes. We're rolling right along here. I didn't want to take forever. I wanted to kind of have a quick but thorough rundown of the Eastern USA. And then we go to Pro Men's Physique Masters. This one was Eric Powell. Now, Eric lost 120 pounds to get ready for this show. And it looked like he kept all of his fullness. It looked like, because a lot of times when you lose that much weight, you lose a lot of muscle too. But when you see him in person, it just doesn't look like he lost muscle. It looked like he held on to all the muscle he possibly could have while he lost the weight. One thing I can say here, you can see the back of his underwear through his posing trunks. So when you guys are doing men's physique, make sure your shorts fit your waistline perfectly. You don't want the underwear that reads jockey or Under Armour Fruit of the Loom peeking out of the top of your shorts. Make sure those shorts fit perfectly, because that can have some kind of an effect when you're on stage with a bunch of other men's physique competitors. Sam, do you have anything you want to add how men's physique competitors can go about choosing shorts?
Oh, get them custom made now, guys.
Yeah.
It's what? Under $100, you guys can get some custom suits.
I did one men's physique show, and I had to get my shorts custom made, because by the time I bought my shorts like maybe 6 weeks out, and by the time it came time to do the show, I was already 2 inches down from what I thought I was going to be. I haven't fit into 32 shorts since high school, but I did in 2013, and the 34s were just too loose, and I couldn't walk on stage like that. So you just got to make sure the shorts fit your waistline and that your underwear is not peeking out the back. That's for sure. But good work, Eric Powell, losing 120 pounds. He had the best abs he could possibly have, but he needs to work on that back conditioning, because the conditioning of his back didn't quite match the conditioning of his front. And I talked to him about that. I seen him in the lobby, and we talked about that for a second. I think one thing you can do, anybody really, that work on their conditioning in the back, focus on your contractions when you're doing back exercises. But I'll tell you what, man, the competitor in the show, who I think is most likely to place highest at a world championship show, came out of the Pro Men's Physique Open Division, yes. David Capizzi. I mean, there were some good competitors in this show, but the one most likely to do well at the top level is David Capizzi. I think this guy is going to get right into the mix. John Suey, William Long, Brandon Stewart, all the top men's physique competitors, look out for this guy right here. I'm not sure what his plans are. I think he might. I don't want to say for sure. Maybe we can make that up, but he's going to be somewhere down the road. When you see this guy,
he's at the Mr. America.
We'll see him at the Mr. America, and hopefully he does something after that too. But this guy, David Capizzi, is ready, man. He asked me after the show, what can I do to be better? And I never say anything. I never tell competitors they're perfect. I never give anybody a score of 10. I might give him a score of 9.5, but I had to come up with something to tell him what he can improve on. But if you look at this guy, look at his posing, his V-tapered waist, his thick back, his symmetry, his color, stage presence, everything's just right there. This guy is a top pro. One thing I did say to him when he hits his frontal bicep, look at this. He kind of, right here, doesn't, in person it looked a little, it looked like he wasn't sticking it out enough. He was kind of caving it in. I don't know if that's a strategy he was using or what. It looks good either way, but I had to pick apart something. I didn't know Cliff Wilson was his coach. I always say, if you want to win your next show, you got to go to teamwilsonbb.com. But it doesn't surprise me that this is Cliff's client, because Cliff's known for having the most conditioned guys in the show. And if you look at David Capizzi here, you can tell that when he dieted down, he lost very little muscle in the process. I'm sure he lost fat slow in the weeks and months leading up to the show. He held on to every ounce of muscle he possibly could have, but he's got everything he needs to be a top pro, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him win a top pro show and any world championship show, but he'll be competitive in any pro show he enters this year, and you can say you heard it here first. Look at that, spreading his lats out, a nice V taper, small waist, man, really good posing, good color. Yeah, so very likely to place very high at any show he enters, but listen for the name, David Capizzi.
Yes, he was fun to watch on stage.
Yeah, and plus he was asking for some feedback as to, and look at those inner chest fibers. I mean, you know you're lean when you got that coming out, and he knew how to hold it together. There was a couple of times where, you could see the seashells in his back. So, like, there's times it's easy to show the Christmas tree, but when you can get those seashells to show and really, like, get those elbows to touch behind the back and really feel those get to see those seashells coming out from each side. That way you can give the judges an extra look, like, oh, this guy's got seashells, and this guy over here doesn't. That could help give him an edge. That's something else he could probably do to capitalize on his performance in future shows. Man, look at those obliques. Just an amazing men's physique competitor. And when he's on stage with the top in the world, the judges are going to have to give David Capizzi a look and compare him with the top dogs in the show. So, very good competitor here in David Capizzi.
Yes, he will stand
And yeah, that's
out.
all I got, Sam. Any other topics you want to bring up about the highlights of the weekend?
Oh, man. Well, let's see. So we had Called Out there doing interviews, which was really, the athletes seemed to really enjoy it. Chris Sproul did a fantastic job, and I'll be releasing those on Instagram and on Facebook here throughout the week. It's really fun to mingle and get to know the athletes and hear a little bit about their story and what their plans are for the rest of the season. Because I'm a fan of the sport myself, and I like to follow these athletes, and I like to cheer for them, and I like to support them. So that was huge. The overall excitement at the show was, we just had a really amazing crew there, right? Like you said, a lot of the people that are going to be at the Mr. America behind the scenes were there, all working seamlessly together, and it just makes me excited. It makes me excited for the rest of the season, big time. And I know you and I did the commentary for the 2020 Mr. America, which was so much fun, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's as fun as it gets for me. I would love to just commentate every single weekend somewhere. I think the sport just needs more commentary. So that's why I like to see Called Out. I like to see Kent Beerley do his thing. I get to see a King's Court in person, because we were at Extreme Gym, because Mark's got a couple of gyms. So we hung out at Mark's Extreme Gym in Nutley, New Jersey. And I had no idea that I was going to get to see a King's Court live in the studio audience. So it was cool to see Kent do his thing there, and then to see Called Out live on the scene at Eastern USA, and to meet everybody there. And that was exciting too. But something else I've never seen before. I've never, ever seen this before. I've never seen a promoter put on a pizza party for the friends and family in the audience. You know what I mean?
That was awesome. Cool. That was awesome. Everybody got up. They all went to the back of the room. There were drinks and pizza and cocktail tables, and everybody was mingling and eating and having a great time. The athletes were out there taking pictures, and then we got back to it. It was a great break during the show.
Oh, yeah, and there was a fire alarm in the first time ever. I don't know how many shows I've been to, but I've never had to evacuate the venue because of a fire alarm. But right during the athletes meeting, there was I don't know if somebody pulled the fire alarm, or there was nothing serious because the fire department came and didn't find anything or whatever, so we got to go right back in. But that was an experience too, but we came in, got right back on track. But once the show started, it went really smooth. Everybody had a good time. And I got to we had an MC there. We had the Mr. America MC there, but I got to do my fair share of talking with the head judging since I had the microphone as well. So it ran pretty smooth, and it all came together quite nicely, I felt.
It was an event for sure. I had a great time. And did you notice how many athletes were in the audience just there to watch the show? We had Joe Lacera. We had Miss Florida from Minnesota was there watching. She came into town. We had quite a few amateur athletes that were just there supporting the show and supporting the athletes, which I interviewed quite a few of them too with Chris, because I'm like, this is awesome. It's so good to see you guys here and to see you guys supporting other athletes and and promoters. So yeah, just the whole vibe was really, really refreshing.
I thought it was cool because everybody I seen on TV when the Mr. America was on CBS Sports, I got to meet in person. So it was cool to see Joe Lacera. And in fact, we were outside of the building. We evacuated the building, and that's when I met Joe Lacera. And Melanie Zarabatapor, she was there handing out trophies with Joe Lacera. And trophy presenters are underrated. Trophy presenters keep the show rolling, because if trophy presenters are not in the right place at the right time and they don't get the awards out in a timely fashion, that could add 20, 30 minutes on the end of the show. So trophy presenters are part of the show, just like the music man, the MC, the head judge, the expediters. They all got to be on the same page. But Melanie and Joe handing out trophies, that was fun. Yeah, good overall experience for everybody involved, for sure. We'll have to do this again sometime, Samantha Feenberg.
You are welcome to come on here anytime, and I'd loved that I was able to supply some footage to kind of go with your review. That was great. I think it benefits the athletes who were there and maybe athletes that are new to the sport or just learning. I think everybody can get something from that.
Yeah, I think the sport needs more podcasters. I mean, you're doing the best job because you provide the live streaming and the professional service. I just get on Facebook Live typically for my Inside Natural Bodybuilding page and press go live, and that's it. I don't do the background like you do it or the professional stream. So you got it going on. But I know I got my podcast. You got yours. Kent Beerley has his. You got called out here. We need more like that to cover the entire sport and more shows from all organizations. Yes. So definitely onto something here. And I'm going to try to catch you and at least step it up a little bit more so I can provide more illustrations like you do. But definitely when I can talk about these classes and the viewers can see what I'm talking about, that definitely provides a value that I need to capitalize on myself in the future on my podcast. But I'll definitely do this with you again in the future because I like the way you do things.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, have a great night. And again, thank you for being my guest. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching. And we'll keep you guys updated with future shows. See you guys next time.
Bye.